Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another episode. As you can see, the title of this episode is When Will Clinical Trials Be Back to Normal? Obviously, the talk of the town, the talk of the world is about coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic. And I've been getting flooded. My emails have been flooded with people wanting to know how they can get into the industry, how they can get in the industry during the pandemic, making it even harder to get in the industry. When will clinical trials be back to normal? All these questions about that. So I'm gonna go into that here in a second. Before I get into that with any depth, I'd like to let you guys know about the resume review program. So for those that are trying to get into the industry right now during the pandemic, this is the time where you want to make sure that your resume is at its best, that your interview skills are sharpened, because when they open up, they're going to be hiring. They're going to be hiring a lot and hiring fast because there's so many new trials just in the COVID space. I don't know how many coordinators have been calling me or I've been talking to over the past couple weeks. Now it's even more. At the recording of this episode, it is currently May 14th, 2020. I don't know how many coordinators, how many people I've been talking to saying they are on COVID-19 trials, or how many companies that I never thought would be running COVID-19 trials are now running COVID-19 trials. So they're going to need staff to fulfill those trials. So it looks like we're going to be opening it up here pretty soon. So currently, I know of companies that are laying off on the travel restrictions. They're letting them expire. I think a lot of companies those will be expired by this Friday. So today's Thursday, so the 15th. So a lot of them are just going to be expiring, but monitors and people aren't going to be traveling just yet, because pretty much all of my sites and most of my other colleagues' sites are still closed for monitoring at this time. They're still closed for research visits. So I want you guys to keep in mind that in clinical trials, you're most of the time dealing with sick individuals. So you do not want them to be under any kind of undue stress or undue harm by this virus. They're already immunocompromised. They're already struggling with something. That's why they're in the clinical trial in the first place. So sites are going to be extra careful about having their patients come into the site, which leads me to believe that we're going to still be research clinics are still going to be closed for another few weeks to patient visits. They may have staff on site, starting to come back on site here in the next couple weeks. A lot of my sites have been saying that they don't have a date in mind, but they are planning to open soon. You've got governors, mayors, elected officials all over the United States have been saying, have been partially reopening. They're usually doing a phase one. They're doing it in phases, phase one, phase two. Sort of like clinical trials, but they're doing it in phases of the reopening. But I just got a lot to say about this. So first, they're doing that in phases, but the numbers still increase. The number of cases are increasing, which is expected when you're opening it back up, but the deaths are increasing also. Are we going to get to a point where we have to basically reverse course because the deaths are too much? Just wait until somebody famous or more famous people start dying from it, or an elected official dies, or an elected official's like close family member dies, because I still think a lot of people think, it's not gonna happen to them. There's a lot of people that think that it's not deadly. It doesn't affect young people. The average age of the people that die are pretty old, but it can wreak havoc on young people. I was just watching the Joe Rogan podcast not too long ago, and Michael Yo was on there. I think this was like literally 2 days ago. Comedian. But anyway, he talks about his experience with COVID. He literally thought he was going to die. And this is a guy who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, pretty healthy guy. But he literally thought he was going to die. And he texted his parents and he said like he's not okay. I mean, of course, to his wife and kids, he was saying, everything's fine. He's going to battle through it. But he thought he was not going to make it to his parents. And he said that to his parents. He thought he was not going to make it. And it just goes to show that this is not just an old person's thing. You've got to be careful. So all that to say, I think it's still going to be a while before CRAs are allowed to travel on site, because the sites are just going to be closed to them. Still, most of my sites are still closed for CRA visits, even though the states may have opened up, tried to reopen the economy. But I still think it's going to be a while. I'd say about 2-3 more weeks before CRAs really start traveling again. And even then, it's going to be different. I've got sites in DC. I'm thinking I may drive. It's less than a 4-hour drive. I'm thinking I may not fly. And this is the person, I hate driving. I hate driving with a passion. Usually I fly anywhere. I'll fly an hour away if I have to. And this just goes to show that no one really knows what's going to happen. This is just my prediction, but the cases are rising fast as we reopen. People start to think that if you reopen, everything's back to normal again, everything's fine again, because they're reopening, which is not the case. The cases are rising, the deaths are rising. President Trump outlined a bunch of guidelines to reopen. He's not even following these guidelines. For states to follow these guidelines until they reopen. And one of them is consecutive days of plateaued or decreased cases. Not a single state that has reopened has had that, where their cases are plateaued or declined. Now, I do think certain states, certain areas are more rural. They may have more separation, i.e. Texas, i.e. southern states. And, places like New York City, they should probably hunker down for the longest time because everyone's so congested together. And that's going to increase the susceptibility of the population and things of that nature. More people are going to get it. But in other places, they can probably reopen a little bit faster. But what's happening is these places are reopening. People think it's okay. So they're congregating in these places. And then you get these huge swells of people with the coronavirus. And no one knows what kind of effect they're going to have from it. They don't know if it's going to be largely asymptomatic. They don't know if they're going to have mild symptoms. They don't know if they're going to have severe symptoms and end up in the hospital. In worst case, they may die, and because it seems to be happening fast. So there's a lot still unknown about this thing. And, but the best thing you can do is just to take your own precautions and really put matters into your own hands. I'm not one where I want to risk this, so I'm going to be taking extra precautions, as in flying as little as possible, driving where I can, putting my sites in New York at the end of my visit schedule, putting them way out there. Borderline may not even be going, maybe delaying it, because that's really a hot bed right now for the coronavirus. So I'm definitely going to be going to my more rural sites first. I'm talking Florida. I'm talking North Carolina. I'm talking Ohio. I'm talking those type of places. And then I'm gonna leave New York City and DC to way in the future, when things have calmed down even more, hopefully, or there's at least a treatment, hopefully. It's bad, guys. It's bad. It looks like the momentum. I've just been feeling the momentum over the past few weeks, just driving around, seeing way more people. When we first started the self-quarantine, there was nobody on the roads, and it was actually really, really nice. I'm not going to lie. I'd go out for walks. I'd be able to walk across the street. There'd be like one car every 10 minutes coming. It was awesome. The birds were chirping. The birds loved it. The squirrels loved it. The rabbits, the deers loved it. They all loved it. But now the momentum, I've just seen the momentum. Now it's basically back to normal. When I go around outside, there's traffic at 5 o'clock. When I go outside, there's a whole bunch of traffic throughout the day, like normal. And I'm still thinking, where are these people going? Still, a lot of stuff is closed. Gyms are closed. Restaurants are closed. Non-essential stores are closed. So where are these people going? I don't know where they're going. It's crazy. All the parks are closed. So I don't understand where these people are going. But they're out there. And so the momentum is just coming to a head where people are not trying to self-quarantine anymore. They're not trying to be held at home anymore. Whether that be for financial reasons, they want to get back to work, whether that just be they're antsy, whether that just means they're being soft and don't want to follow the guidelines. And, Americans, we have a little rebellious streak in us. It's part of our DNA, part of our culture. So, They'll comply for a little bit, but after a while, they're just not going to comply for the sake of not wanting to comply. That's just how we Americans are. So that's just how it is, guys. But the momentum is clearly going in the direction where people are going to continue to go out to be about, regardless of the risk, regardless of what people are saying they should do, what the experts are saying. They're just not going to be held in the house anymore. So what does that mean? That probably means there's going to be another spike of coronavirus. That probably means it's going to get worse. I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully it doesn't. But that's just what it is. So as its effect on clinical trials, obviously clinical trials is an industry that has a lot of travel, and the stakeholders in the industry, i.e. the patients, they're at risk of this. So what happens when a patient gets the coronavirus? What happens if a study coordinator gets the coronavirus and passes it to the patients? These are things we got to think about when we're reopening clinical trials or going back to on-site monitoring. These are things we got to think about. How do you conduct a monitoring visit when everything's closed? No gym, no restaurants. That's one of the things they've been sending out to, company-wide, and these companies have been sending out is, look, you're not going to be able to do monitoring visits because the site is closed. You're only going to be able to do monitoring visits if, there's a checklist. If, restaurants are open, if, hotels are open and they're doing their best to be clean about it. There's a whole bunch of checklists going. But until that happens, you're not going to be able to travel that well, or you're going to be under an advisory to travel to that place. It's not advisable for you to do that. So, like I said, the recording of this is May 14th, 2020. Of course, this thing changes daily, weekly. So who knows what's going to happen next week. But I like coming on here, doing these updates from my perspective about what's going on in the clinical trials industry and what's going on dealing with coronavirus. So, of course, I'll do another update next week. And I'll be doing updates pretty much until this thing is over. We're living an interesting time, guys. Very interesting time. So as far as when they'll be hiring back for jobs, another thing I want to talk about too, the remote work. This industry is built for remote work. A lot of the jobs, one of my first jobs in the industry, project management assistant, I could have did that whole job from home. There's so many jobs in clinical project management that could be done completely from home. There's so many jobs just in the world that could be done from home, because most of the time you're going into the office and you're going to sit at a computer with internet access to do your work or whatever it is. You could do that at home most of the time. You can collaborate with people from home. You can get on meetings, get on calls. Now, it's not as good as in person, but it'll work. You just had a company like Twitter come out and say, most of their employees will be able to work from home. If not all of them will be able to work from home. So that's probably what's going to happen. A lot of companies probably thought that they weren't capable of working from home. It affect the culture, blah, 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 blah. Well, now they're forced to work from home. So we'll see. I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of companies come out and say our employees are allowed to work from home now. And is that the new normal? So basically, people are allowed to go out at their own risk. It's on them. It's not they're not going out for their company. So we'll see. Commercial real estate is going to get crushed probably because of this. No more office buildings. People are going to have offices in their house. Maybe people will buy bigger houses so they can have 2 offices. Mom and dad could have 2 offices, separate offices. So we'll see the effects of this. This is definitely going to be interesting. But clinical research is built to work from home. So many people can work from home in clinical research. So hopefully we see a lot more companies adopting that work from home policy. When I was an in-house CRA, I had 1 day work from home. When I was a project management assistant, I don't think I had any days work from home, unfortunately. I don't think I had a single day work from home at the time. But the policies have been changing. Guys. So now there's probably way more work from home, or there's going to be moving forward. So as far as back to normal, who knows what the new normal is? But what I mean is, will clinical trials be back to normal? I mean, patients coming on site. I mean, monitors going on site, reviewing documents, reviewing patient files, doctors on site conducting patient visits. That's what I'm talking about. I think we're a long ways away from that. Because, I mean, there's two things that could happen. They could reopen it, decide it's too risky, close it back down again. They could reopen it as the cases and deaths increase, and they just let people get wiped out because the economy has to go on. People are hurting. People are struggling. The economy has to go on. So, I mean, it's just unfortunate because I feel like with better leadership across the country, this would have been handled way better. With more sound and stable leadership, this would have been handled way better. And it's just really unfortunate because a lot of people are going to die from this that didn't have to die. A lot of people are going to die because of greed. People wanting to get the economy back normal and make more money. It's just unfortunate. A lot of people are going to die that didn't have to die because of this. So we'll see, guys. We'll see. So we'll have another update next week. And stay safe. Wear your masks. I'm very happy to say that I've been in a lot of grocery stores and a lot of stores. People are wearing masks. So that's good to see. And this is the South. So once again, people don't like being told what to do. But people are wearing masks. They are doing their best to stay safe. They're doing their best. So that's all we can do our best to stay safe. And we'll have another update next week, guys. If you have any questions, concerns, need any resume review help, need interview preparation, email me, eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com. Take care.